Since the last video, I made a few changes to what I already did. The first is that I changed the lift slot from straight to curved. And what this does is it keeps the bearing flat against the wall of the slot rather than being at an angle when the slot was straight. I also extended out the sides here on the ends. What I did to begin with was a little bit too narrow. I didn't realize, so I made that change. And you can see that a little bit better where I'm drilling a hole through, and that is for a bolt that I added up here that kind of pinches this part of the swivel tight together so that there's no play. I also drilled a hole, a very small hole, through the pivot pin, and I put a nail in, and that will keep that pin in place and not let it come out. I haven't driven it all the way in yet because I need to take this all apart again to give it a coat of urethane to seal it. What I'm going to do in this video, though, is I'm going to make the trunnions that the thing tilts on, like this, and I'm going to make the frame that the trunnions sit in. I'm going to be using plywood to build the frame for the trunnions, but for the trunnions themselves, I'm going to be using this very slippery plastic that I have here. I bought this originally for the saw to use as the top, and this is an offcut that I have here, so I have some left over. And I'm using this because I have it, but you could easily use plywood, or another option is a 1/2-inch thick cutting board. You can easily cut the trunnions from that. With those cut out, I can attach them to the ends, lining them up with the marks that I made on here before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 clamps on there first to hold it while I get a couple of screws in there. And then I can take the clamps off again and mark the back of the trunnion so that I can cut it off. Now once I screw this on, I don't want it to move, so I'm going to rough up the back a little bit, and then I'm going to put some glue on the back of there as well. I've got them attached to both ends, and I also trimmed one of the ends here, the frames, and I'll line it up with the trunnion that's on here and just spring clamp it in place up tight against that so it doesn't fall. And then take the other one and put it in the middle like that. And then I cut these strips that will go across the top and connect this lower part with this middle part. So I'm just going to get some glue on that and then clamp that up. Okay, so that's the two main trunnions made. And most saws only have two, but of course mine is special. It needs another one. This one's much bigger though, and I'm laying it out here on this piece of plywood. First thing I did was I made a cut part of the way in, kind of before I realized what I was doing. It's actually better to lay this out first while the full sheet is still intact. I could cut this curve with the router again, but this time, instead, I'm just going to mark it out with a stick and then cut it out on the bandsaw. And the purpose of this trunnion is to help support the motor. And there'll be more about that in the next video in this series. I thought I would take the time to set it up to demonstrate how it tilts.